Om Jnanatimirandhasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swapadantikam. Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swapadantikam. Nama Om Vishnupadaya Krishna Preshtaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swaminiti Namine Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine Vancha Kalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhyevacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namah. To the, I was going to say old faces I see, the long-time friends' faces I see. I want to just let you know this. I'm playing hooky just so I could see you. I'm supposed to be back in Honolulu today. Nadia? What the? Oh my goodness. How does that happen? Yeah, but day by day, right? One day at a time. Wow, what surprises. I haven't seen Ajita and Janaki in a million years. Nadia was like kind of walking last time I saw her. Wow. I came just to see y'all. I stayed here. I'm in trouble back home. Although this is another home. As I mentioned last night, I go way back here, go back to 1970 when I took a vacation from the Honolulu temple for a little bit. And many of you have known for 50 years. I remember just after I got married, which is almost 50 years ago, seeing your kids running around the temple at Third and Thorn. I was telling Panishri this morning, I said, yeah, I remember Harini made a big impression on me. She was like a little toddler, and she was so adorable. I asked her, oh, what is your name? Harini! I never forgot that. It's 50 years, and I don't remember my name, but I remember that. So today is the auspicious appearance of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu in Nadia, what we now call West Bengal. And for me, Gaur Purnima is a big deal, because 54 years ago, just before Gaur Purnima, maybe a few days, maybe a week before Gaur Purnima, I made a commitment and moved into the Hare Krishna temple in Honolulu. So Gaur Purnima is always a big thing for me. And I remember the many Gaur Purnimas that I spent here when I lived just down the street. And I also I was thinking the other day of one Gaur Purnima when there was some disturbance at the temple in Tijuana. And Badrinarayan was looking for someone to go down there and celebrate Gaur Purnima with those devotees. And I just thought, well, wait a minute, I don't know. But then it occurred to me, these devotees were in distress. The Gaur Purnima festival that we had here was probably going to be like the Gaur Purnima festival the year before and the year before that. Pretty much the same folks. And I thought, I'll go abroad. It's a different country, right? We can say that. Just an hour's drive away, but different country. I'll go abroad for Gaur Purnima, and that was also very sweet. So what I want to do tonight, trees seem to be in the wind today, well, this weekend, because I spoke about trees yesterday, and some of the verses that that a couple of the verses that I mentioned yesterday will come up today. So what I want to do is to go through one chapter in Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita, and that's the 9th chapter of the first part, Adi Lila. And Srila Krishnadas Kaviraj calls this the desire tree of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And I wanted to share this because we've been talking over the weekend about the two purposes for which Lord Krishna appeared as Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu 537 years ago. And this particularly addresses that external reason, which is especially for our benefit, which is to teach the congregational chanting of the holy name of Krishna. And so we'll see a little bit of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's mood in this chapter, and also how we can please Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So I'll skip a lot of the Sanskrit, and I might read a little bit from some of Srila Prabhupada's purports along the way, but I'm worried about time. I'm always in trouble. And I didn't try to time this today. I had an errand to do today that took longer than we expected. But I will read this first verse. Tang Srimat Krishna Chaitanya Devam Bande Jagad Gurum Yasyanu Kampaya Svapi Mahadbhim Santarit Sukham. This is Srila Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami. Let me offer my respectful obeisances unto the spiritual master of the entire world, Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, by whose mercy even a dog can swim across a great ocean. And then Jaya Jaya Sri Chaitanya Jaya Gaur Chandra, Jaya Jaya Sri Krishna Chaitanya Gaur Chandra, Jaya Jaya Dvaita Jaya Jaya Nityananda. A little excited here. All glories to Sri Krishna Chaitanya, who is known as Gaura Hari. All glories to Advaita Acharya and Nityananda Prabhu. All glories to the devotees of Lord Chaitanya, headed by Srivas Thakur. In order to fulfill all my desires, I remember their lotus feet. I also remember the 6 Goswamis, Rupa Sanatana, Bhatta Raghunath, Sri Jiva, Gopala Bhatta, and Das Raghunath. It is by the mercy of all these Vaishnavas and Gurus that I attempt to write about the pastimes and qualities of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Whether I know it or know not, it is for self-purification that I write this book. I take shelter of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, who himself is the tree of transcendental love of Krishna, its gardener, and also the bestower and enjoyer of its fruits. Lord Chaitanya thought, my name is Vishwambhar, one who maintains the entire universe. Its meaning will be actualized if I can fill the whole universe with love of Godhead. Thinking in this way, he accepted the duty of a planter and began to grow a garden in Navadvip. So in this figure of speech here, and this is kind of an allegory in a sense, a little bit of an extended figure of speech. We see Lord Chaitanya taking a humble position. He takes the position of a gardener, and we'll see his humility show up even more. Thus the Lord brought the desire tree of devotional service to this earth and became its gardener. He sowed the seed and sprinkled upon it the water of his will. All glories to Sri Madhavendra Puri, the storehouse of all devotional service unto Krishna. He is a desire tree of devotional service, and it is in him that the seed of devotional service first fructified. The seed of devotional service next fructified in the form of Sri Ishvar Puri. So we were talking, I think it was last night, about how whenever the Lord appears, superior in age members of his entourage appear first, of course. And they appear to kind of set the stage for the Lord's appearance. So here we saw, last night we saw that Madhavendra Puri, Ishvara Puri, Jagannath Mishra, Sachi Devi, and others, Advaita Acharya, they appeared before Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. The seed of devotional service next fructified in the form of Sri Ishvara Puri, who is Madhavendra Puri's disciple. And then the gardener himself, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, became the main trunk of the tree of devotional service. By his inconceivable powers, the Lord became the gardener, the trunk, and the branches simultaneously. Humble, but also very cool, right? A little magical. Paramananda Puri, Keshava Bharati, Brahmananda Puri, and Brahmananda Bharati, Sri Vishnu Puri, Keshava Puri, Krishnananda Puri, Sri Nrsinga Tirtha, and Sukhananda Puri. These 9 sannyasi roots all sprouted from the trunk of the tree. Thus the tree stood steadfastly on the strength of these 9 roots. So the base of the tree was these powerful, these strong roots, these very powerful sannyasis, gentlemen who had completely detached themselves from the material world. And so they anchor that tree of bhakti. Seems like nature will keep this from going too long. So we have Brahmananda Bharati is the central root, kind of like the tap root. With the sober and Paramananda Puri. With the sober and grave Paramananda Puri is the central root, and the other 8 roots in the 8 directions. The tree of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu stood firmly. From the trunk grew many branches, and above them innumerable others. And these are all going to be described in the next chapter, in chapter 10. Thus, the branches of the Chaitanya tree formed a cluster or society with great branches covering all the universe. And then in this purport, Srila Prabhupada makes this point. Our International Society for Krishna Consciousness is one of the branches of the Chaitanya tree. Very nice point. From each branch grew many hundreds of sub-branches. No one can count how many branches thus grew. I shall try to name the foremost of the innumerable branches. Please hear the description of the Chaitanya tree. At the top of the tree, the trunk branched into 2. One trunk was named Sri Advaita Prabhu, and the other Sri Nityananda Prabhu. From these 2 trunks grew many branches and sub-branches that covered the entire world. These branches and sub-branches and their sub-branches became so numerous that no one can actually write about them. So we see that even nowadays in the West, we have the International Society for Krishna Consciousness, which is no doubt, I think everyone admits, the largest and most active society for spreading Krishna consciousness around the world. But there are also many other societies, Krishna conscious societies, and we are all, Srila Prabhupada wrote me back in 1973, we are all one family. We are all one family. And I saw this when I was just recently in Sri Dham, Mayapur in West Bengal, Lord Chaitanya's birthplace. The ISKCON has a very large campus, very large center, with developing some very large and gorgeous buildings that actually dominate the landscape. It's a kind of a flat landscape, so that's not terribly hard to do. But we see Srila Prabhupada's Pushpa Samadhi there, and then looming even above it, the in progress Temple of Vedic Planetarium that is being built to honor Lord Chaitanya. To draw, this campus is being developed to draw the whole world to Navadvip Mayapur, and so that everyone can learn about Lord Chaitanya. But when you wander around the area, there are so many temples run by devotees from so many different societies. And when you go to visit those temples, you're greeted just as if you were one of them, because we are. And when they come to our temple, we treat them the same. Why? Because we're all one family. We all come from the same tree. Thus, the disciples and grand disciples and their admirers spread throughout the entire world, and it is not possible to enumerate them all. As a big fig tree bears fruits all over its body, each part of the tree of devotional service bore fruit. Since Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was the original trunk, the taste of the fruits that grew on the branches and sub-branches surpassed the taste of nectar. So the kind and quality of the fruits that you get depend a lot on the tree, on the trunk. And so because Mahaprabhu, Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, the source of everything, was actually the trunk of this tree, the fruits were indescribably sweet. The fruits ripened and became sweet and nectarian. The gardener, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, distributed them without asking any price. Just come and get it. Free samples. Sometimes we observe that this was particularly Lord Nityananda Prabhu's business. This was his business model for his marketplace of the holy name. He did have a price. Nityananda Prabhu did have a price. Little faith. Just enough to approach the vendor. And this is like the ultimate, original, perfect, multi-level marketing scheme. Lord Nityananda Prabhu's marketplace of the holy name. Bhaktivinoda Thakur writes about this in one of his songs called Dalaler Gita, the merchant's song. And so he has Lord Nityananda running this marketplace, and each of his agents, we distribute the holy name to those who have a little bit of faith. And they get the product, which awakens love in their hearts, and we get our commission, which is more love in our hearts. And it goes on and on like this. My sister and I tried to build a business with one of these multi-level marketing companies back in the 90s. Some of my friends may remember us bothering them. You're supposed to talk to your family and friends, and we just realized this is a really creepy way to approach your family and friends. And I remember thinking, I should be selling Krishna consciousness like this. But and what we realized was the only way you're really going to get that lifetime residual income that they always promise is if you get this matrix of 3 people under you, each of whom has 3 people under them, each of whom has 3 people under them. So it's what, 27, 30 some odd people, I don't know. My degrees are in English for a reason. And if you get, and they're all go-getters, then you get those checks coming the rest of your life. Otherwise, as most people who engage in multi-level marketing find out, it won't work. So that means you have to really throw yourself into that business without any return for a long time. So that's a bit of a trip. But Lord Nityananda's marketplace, it's even better, because the price is really easy, just a little faith. And if we have faith, then we can share. This is how we call it preaching, but it's really just sharing our faith. That's all we have. That's all we really have. I don't have any love, but I have a little faith in the holy name and those who distribute the holy name. And so I can share that with other people. No price for Lord Chaitanya, though. All the wealth in the three worlds cannot equal the value of one such nectarian fruit of devotional service. Not considering who asked for it and who did not, nor who was fit and who unfit to receive it, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu distributed the fruit of devotional service. We saw a couple chapters back, chapter 7, where Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Lord Nityananda Advaita Acharya, Gadadhar Pandit, and Srivas Thakur, their business was to break open the storehouse of love of God and distribute it like crazy. Just as we hear here, not without considering who was fit and who was not fit. Giving free samples. I remember when I was a kid. Some of us may be old. Maybe 2 or 3 of us may be old enough to remember this. Probably back in the 50s, whenever the tobacco companies came up with a new brand of cigarettes, they would go out on the street, have people go out on the streets with these little packs of like 5 cigarettes and give them away to folks for free, hoping that they would get hooked. They had an even more evil plan. During World War II, when our dads were overseas in Europe or in the Pacific fighting, they gave shiploads of cigarettes away free to the GIs, knowing that they would become addicted, and when they came back, they would be lifetime customers. So this is Lord Chaitanya has a similar business plan. Shishi Radha Giri Hari Ki Jai. Govardhan Ki Jai. Giving away free samples with the full confidence that if you take a taste, you get hooked. If you receive it with just that little bit of faith, you're done. Oh, oops, I just gave the secret away. Y'all are toast. It's just a matter of where you turn the dial, how long it's going to take for us to get done. How many times we have to push the lever down on the toaster. Not considering who asked for it and who did not, who was fit or who unfit to receive it, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu distributed the fruit of devotional service. The transcendental gardener, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, distributed handful after handful of fruit in all directions, and when the poor hungry people ate the fruit, the gardener smiled with great pleasure. Lord Chaitanya thus addressed the multifarious varieties of branches and sub-branches of the tree of devotional service. Since the tree of devotional service is transcendental, every one of its parts can perform the action of all the others. Although a tree is supposed to be immovable, this tree nevertheless moves. All the parts of this tree are spiritually cognizant, and thus they grow. As they grow, they spread all over the world. So this is Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu thinking to himself now. I am the only gardener. How many places can I go? How many fruits can I pick and distribute? So he's got a problem here. It would certainly be a very laborious task to pick the fruits and distribute them alone. And still, I suspect that some would receive them and others would not. Therefore, I order everyone within this universe to accept this Krishna consciousness movement and distribute it everywhere. I didn't know about this in 1970. We didn't have Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita in 1970. So I thought, oh, this is the real revolution. I want to do this. And then all of a sudden, after a while, I found out what I was hooked. This happens when we get involved with some sort of syndicate, right? We're thinking, oh, this is kind of a cool job, and then all of a sudden we realize you can't get out. You know stuff, you know names. Can't get out. I am the only gardener. If I do not distribute these fruits, what shall I do with them? How many fruits can I alone eat? By the transcendental desire of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, water has been sprinkled all over the tree, and thus there are innumerable fruits of love of Godhead. Distribute this Krishna consciousness movement all over the world. Let people eat these fruits and ultimately become free from old age and death. If the fruits are distributed all over the world, my reputation as a pious man will be known everywhere, and thus all the people will glorify my name with great pleasure. And then we come across a verse that we hear a lot. We heard this so many times from our Divine Master, Srila Prabhupada. Bharata bhumi te hoila manushya janmajar, janmasarta korikar para upakar. One who has taken his birth as a human being in the land of India, Bharatvarsha, should make his life successful and work for the benefit of all other people. Pause. Footnote. This entire planet used to be known as Bharatvarsha. So ultimately, this order is for all of us, as Mahaprabhu is saying here. And Srila Prabhupada, as Dravida Prabhu was pointing out this morning, he made his experiment in India and he didn't have so much success, so he came here. The people of our little Bharat Bhumi, in that corner of the world, they weren't so receptive. So he came to the U.S. One of his godbrothers commented that their spiritual master, Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur, once suggested that if he had another 10 years to live, he would like to spend it in America. And then he said, so your Guru Maharaj, our Swami Maharaj, he has given our Guru Maharaj those 10 years and then some. Prabhupada was traveling around the world for 12 years in his 70s and 80s, teaching Krishna consciousness. And then one of the verses that I shared last night, and if you remember, those who were here remember, and those of you who weren't here will now learn, this is Krishna speaking. He was out in the forest in the heat of summer with his buddies, his cowherd boyfriends. And the summer's sun was beating down so hot. But all the trees of Vrindavan were sheltering him like umbrellas, providing shade, cooling shade. And he was observing just how magnanimous these trees are. So he said, Etava janmasa palyam dehinam hidehishu pranay rartay dhyavacha shreya acharanam sada. It is the duty of every living being to perform welfare activities for the benefit of others with his life, wealth, intelligence, and words. And this verse actually follows a verse that will follow a couple of verses later. Because he's using this to show that these trees are setting an example. Their magnanimity is showing us how to behave, showing us how we should live. And he says, Praninam upakaraya yadeveha paratracha karmana manasa vacha tadeva matiman vajet. By his work, word, thoughts, and words, an intelligent man must perform actions which will be beneficial for all living entities in this life and the next. I'm merely a gardener, Mahaprabhu is thinking. I have neither a kingdom nor great riches. I mean, he's living as a beggar at this point. I simply have some fruits and flowers that I wish to utilize to achieve piety in my life. Although I am acting as a gardener, I also want to be the tree, for thus I can bestow benefit upon all. And then he cites this verse that precedes the verse that I just cited, the Etavad Janma Sapalyam. He says, Aho eshang varang janma sarva pranyupajivanam. Sujanasyeva yeshang by vimukha yanti nartina. Just see how these trees are maintaining every living entity. Their birth is successful. Their behavior is just like that of great personalities. For anyone who asks anything from a tree never goes away disappointed. The descendants of the tree, the devotees of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, were very glad to receive this order from the Lord. The fruit of love of God is so delicious that wherever a devotee distributes it, those who relish the fruit anywhere in the world immediately become intoxicated. The fruit of love of Godhead distributed by Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is such a great intoxicant that anyone who eats it filling his belly, immediately becomes maddened by it. And automatically he chants, dances, laughs, and enjoys. When Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, the great gardener, sees that people are chanting, dancing, and laughing, and that some of them are rolling on the floor and some are making loud humming sounds, he smiles with great pleasure. People are getting loaded on my stuff, right? Bhagavatam, actually the third verse of the Bhagavatam, which is the blessing provided by the Bhagavatam itself, it tells us what we can enjoy by hearing or studying Srimad Bhagavatam. It's called the Ashirvada Shloka. It's a blessing that's given. And the blessing is that we taste the fruit. We taste the fruit of the Srimad Bhagavatam. The Bhagavatam, it says, is the ripened fruit of the tree of Vedic knowledge. And when you taste that fruit, you become intoxicated. Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, one of the acharyas who explains this verse, says this is a fruit that doesn't, it's like a mango that doesn't have skin, doesn't have a pit, and it's not stringy at all. Practically, it's just juice. So how do you consume this fruit? You have to drink it. And how do you drink it? Through the ear. By hearing, right? And then what happens when you drink it? You become intoxicated, and then you pass out. Right? This is the first thing that I did at my graduation party. My friends and I threw a graduation party from high school, and I don't think I lasted 40 minutes. Because I didn't eat all day. We were getting things ready for the party. So my dad actually had to carry me home. Quite disgusted. So, and then when you wake up, you belly up and get some more. And then you pass out again. So this is the blessing of the Srimad Bhagavatam. So Lord Chaitanya is very happy to see people becoming intoxicated by this fruit of the love of Godhead. The great gardener, Lord Chaitanya, personally eats this fruit, and as a result, he constantly remains mad, as if helpless and bewildered. Got a problem. With his Sankirtan movement, the Lord made everyone mad like himself. We do not find anyone who was not intoxicated by his Sankirtan movement. Persons who had formerly criticized the Lord, Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, calling him a drunkard, also ate the fruit and began to dance, saying, "Very good, very good." After describing the Lord's distribution of the fruit of love of Godhead, I now wish to describe the different branches of the tree of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And then he ends this chapter, as he does every chapter. Sri Rupa Raghunatha Pade Jarash, Chaitanya Charitamrita, Kohe Krishna Das. Praying at the lotus feet of Sri Rupa and Sri Raghunath, always desiring their mercy, I, Krishna Das, narrate Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita, following in their footsteps. So we see here a little bit of Lord Chaitanya's mood. He has something really good. And when we have something, when we encounter great fortune, what's the best thing to do with it? Share. I mean, how much money can you spend? You ask these guys. Even Bill Gates, much vilified, figured, at a certain point he resigned from being the CEO of the huge corporation that he had built, made him a billionaire. When he went from a college dropout to being a billionaire. Of course, the college was Harvard. It's not like he was like some schlub from Lompoc, California or something. But at a certain point, he made his main business figuring out ways to get rid of his money. Now, people criticize the places that he chooses to give his money. That's fair. You can do that. But that became his main business, giving away as much of his money as he could. So this is Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's business plan. Get rich with our multi-level marketing company and spread it as, get as many people going under you as you can, so that everybody is able to enjoy this particular product, the best product in the world. This is a kind of intoxication that isn't detrimental. We have all these 12-step programs to help people recover from their addiction to certain kinds of things, alcohol and drugs, sex, gambling. Oh, this is starting to sound familiar. It's starting to sound like all the bad stuff. I don't see any Hamburgers Anonymous yet, but maybe one day, if we can share enough of this fruit of Lord Chaitanya's tree, this fruit that's a little messy. I mean, it's obviously a little messy. No skin, no pit, no strings to hold it together. It's just like kind of all. So we have to drink very eagerly so we don't just really, it doesn't like just get all over us. And then, when we realize what a great product this is, naturally we're going to want to share it. Because as Krishnadas Kaviraj describes later, or elsewhere in Chaitanya Charitamrita, it's their mercy. It's the mercy of the devotees that they are so they give it away so freely, and we see that in our spiritual master, His Divine Grace Srila Prabhupada, who, as we've mentioned a few times over this weekend, at the age of 69, got on not a cruise ship, but a freighter, right? Got on a freighter and came to the West with a plan. Sometimes I would hear people say, "Oh, Prabhupada had this big plan, how he was going." You want to know Srila Prabhupada's plan? Read his prayer to the lotus feet of Lord Krishna, the Bengali poem that he wrote in the middle of the Atlantic Ocean on that freighter. He wrote in his diary, "Today I have shared my heart with my eternal companion, Sri Krishna." And I've written this in a Bengali poem. And this poem he didn't write for publication. This was his own pouring of his heart to the Lord. And he said, "I've been given an impossible task. I'm a nobody. I don't have a name. I don't have an institution backing me up. I don't have any money. All I have is the order of my spiritual master. And I'm completely unfit to do this." He says, "But you are very wise. You're the wisest of all. If you can make it happen, then I might be successful." So this is Srila Prabhupada's big plan. And along the way, he enlisted us in that business. And so our business is to share it as broadly as we can. 7:30, here comes the hook. Because we have a drama coming up. Thank you all so very much. It's such a delight to be back here, and it's so wonderful to see so many longtime friends. I'm not going to say old, because not all of them are old yet. But so many longtime friends still coming here, supporting Srila Prabhupada's project here in San Diego, and enjoying and distributing the fruits of the Hare Krishna Mahamantra. Thank you so much. Hare Krishna. Chaitanya Charitamrita ki jai. Hare Krishna.